Hello, my name is Gabrielle Kennedy. I'm the editor-in-chief of DA magazine. Today we're going to be talking to the creative director of Glue, David Heldt, along with Bao Fei from Design Museum Den Bosch and Rubiah Balsem from Studio Balsem about the sticky participants in this year's chapter of Glue. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Maybe we start with you, David. Could you tell us a little bit about why you decided to introduce stickies this year?
It's the fourth year that we organize Glue, and what we noticed is that we are kind of always facing the same group of designers and brands, and they are great. We are very happy with them, but somehow we thought it can be more inspiring. And are there not other groups, other bubbles of creatives that we can make part of Glue? And that's why we thought we are going to make an effort and curate designers that maybe, or creatives, or whatever you want to call them, that are not always on our service, on our that we already know. So we had to do a little bit more work.
And when you approached them with the idea of participating, were there any surprises? People that don't typically think of themselves as being part of the design bubble or coming from the design trajectory, were they surprised to be invited or included?
Sometimes maybe yes. Sometimes they didn't see themselves as a designer. And what we also noticed is that we think of designers of kind of little entrepreneurs that have a website. But in the designers or these creatives that we selected, not all of them have a website. They are used to kind of do business on Instagram or on whatever way, I don't know. But for us that is like, or for me at least, something new. Like if I hear a name and I don't see a website, then maybe before I would say, well, if that person doesn't have a website, do I take him serious? Or, oh, okay, I forget about it and I look for someone else that do have a website. So we kind of, it kind of taught me also to look differently at what is a designer and how do they work and how do they have make a business that's not in the way that we are used to do it.
And I see you nodding there a lot, Bao. Do you agree with this? I mean, what did you sort of turn to as criteria to try to extend the list of participants?
So, as a curator at the Design Museum Den Bosch, as a curator of young design, of new makers, young designers, young thinkers, I had this completely new approach I needed to find the artists, to find the designers. It used to be that you need to go to all the exam shows and see them all. And now everything, what David said, goes through via Instagram. A lot of designers don't see the meaning or the permanence of a website to be important. They see that like the temporarily things they can do on Instagram, a better way to show what they want to do, what they present, what they think about. And also for me, and I think also when Rubiah asked me to find or to think about the designers, the Glue Sticky members, I just opened my Instagram and just started to swipe through them and find the ones which were interesting for Glue this year.
Is that same with you, Rubiah? Did you go to Instagram to find fresh faces, new names,
No, honestly,
undiscovered talents?
No, actually, I immediately reached out to my network because I know a lot of curators working within the arts field, and I know a lot of them work with quite a lot of young talent and also from different kind of disciplines. So I actually reached out to them. So one of our mutual friends is Jelmer Wijnstroom. I asked him, and he also introduced me also to Bao, and that's actually where the conversation started in regards to where do you find new creative talent which didn't really take the, I would say, the beaten path, and where do we find them? I think that actually it was a starting point of a very interesting conversation with different kind of curators, and also between the both of us, and also between David and me, because do we talk about designers? Do we talk about artists? Do we talk about makers? How do we define them? And also from my artistic background, it always ends up talking about quality. What is that quality of work? And especially when you talk about diversity and inclusion, if you want to broaden that aspect as well, I think there in that, I would say, that range of all the disciplines coming together, there is actually a lot of new kind of creative talent to be discovered.
Yeah, so when we talk about not sort of turning to the same places to discover what's new, but are you talking about an alternative to the top design schools, for example, in the Netherlands? I mean, do you still see those graduation shows as the place to find what's hot?
Also, besides, equally, of course, it's a place for artists or makers or creators. Some of them, they need these kind of, I would say, structure. Some of them are autodidact, like Marianne Duff, director of OSCAM. A lot of artists are also quite autodidactic, and they don't pursue any, I would say, academic ambitions or whatsoever.
And David, I know that you have a sort of a rich history in the Dutch design, let's call it bubble. This bubble is a problem, and it sounds like this concept of stickies is maybe one way out of that bubble. You always, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you go to Milan or if you go to Copenhagen, it's always the same names, the same work, the same voices. It is this sort of bubble that needs to be pricked, I'd say.
So I think what Rubiah said concerning what is quality, I think what often happens in design festivals or musea or fairs is that we follow a kind of path that maybe is Dutch design, or that it looks like something that we have seen before that is important, and we kind of copy that. But it is much more interesting to have the field itself to decide what they want to present, and not to have a kind of selection from top down. And of course it's a strange, because we are also kind of selecting, but I think what we try to do is to look very much on, not on what is quality, what we think is quality, and then we make a selection. We kind of ask and we select on what the sector itself kind of brings up, with the idea of opening new bubbles, like trying to find these designers or creatives in different fields that we don't know. I mean, I learned a lot in this whole process of new designers, new names. I'm very happy for that. But that's only possible if you kind of not put yourself in the role of a curator or someone that says, I know what is quality and I'm going to decide what we bring on show. No, for me that was a new in the process, that we kind of leave it up to the sector almost.
With stretching the definition of design, this is a question I open to all of you, how do you keep the momentum going or keep the cohesion going so it can make an impact, not make it so disparate that design can become anything and everything, which is sometimes, I know in my role as an editor of a magazine, I grapple with as well. Like how do you sort of be a little bit strict to keep the word design meaningful?
That's really funny because I see design as everything, like everything where what is thought by a human person, or even maybe nature, to solve problems. And I think there's a big change at the moment. The designer, it isn't about the design anymore, and it isn't about the designed. It's about what the designed object and has as a social implication, how people receive the design, how it mediates, how it tells stories about where we are at the moment today, and where are we going to. For example, one of the sticky members is Alex Amore de Rio, and he makes ceramics. So it's alright. It's an object. It's a designed object, but it refers to the last Corona years. It refers to a DIY mentality. It refers to post-internet culture. It refers to being an autodidact, even almost. He did go to the academy, but he really just explored ceramics on his own. And that's something which you see a lot happening the last 3 years. Young designers just Googling whatever or YouTubing different kind of tutorials and think, I can do this too. I can do this even better. And just ordering 3D printers or a ceramics oven from Marktplaats and just make stuff. It reflects our zeitgeist, and solve new problems or solve the problems they have.
Yeah, I agree on that also. But I would also like to add that what our definition of design within the Western world is different from those non-Western perspectives. So there's another artist I will be interviewing as well, and also one part of the sticky members is Chen Yu Wang. She was also one of the graduates of the Dutch Design Week in 2022. And she explained to me, like, here in the Western world, design is very academic defined. It's almost rationalized. And from her perspective, from her Asian background, from Taiwan, design itself is part of life, is more fluid. So I think maintaining a certain kind of Western perception of design, I think, will not hold the ground anymore, because we want to break it open. These are the conversations that we have between Bao and and David also. I think there's a necessity for breaking down the walls and redefining it.
And so do you think that creates more opportunities for more sort of designers, for example, that graduate more from this Western perspective? Or do you think it's going to be more challenging for them in particular?
Well, I hope not. It will be more challenging. I hope actually within the curricula of the design academies, their perspective will be much more implemented. So therefore...
That's really interesting, because you definitely see that now. I mean, if you go to any of the graduation shows, I mean, if you compare the work now to even sort of 5 years ago, it's unrecognizable. I mean, you just don't see this work that is just sort of a pretty picture with an exaggerated text of how it's going to change the world. You see less and less of that these days, and it's much more a way of thinking, but it doesn't come accompanied with a pretty picture. So it's really changing, and it sort of seems to me a bit in flux at the moment, which must have made your jobs both exciting but also a little bit difficult, because you had to sort of make that jump or close that gap between these two different positions for design, if you will.
But I think going back maybe to the first point of what is the quality, and it reminds me of something that someone asked me a few weeks ago, like, why did you select me? Were the other ones less good than my work, or was I the best of this graduation show, or wherever I found her? And no, it's not like this. I mean, it's not that you were the best of all of these designers, but you did something different that stretched the definition. And I think that's for me. Next year, I want to be able to make another selection of designers that also have a different that is interesting, and it is not that one of these designers is better than the other. It's just something as a group you look at also what is missing here, and I think that was also the way that we looked at it. We need to find designers that do something maybe with something else than making chairs and vases and tables, so they can also use another medium that that they combine in their process, and that in that way we were looking at designers that are doing things in a weird or in a strange or different way than before.
Yeah, a new narrative, a narrative from materiality, but also narrative from different kind of narratives from the concept, because maybe they involve different kind of disciplines. Because we think there also it's very exciting what happening there is like in that border. That's where new disciplines are being born. That's where the experiment is, and actually there's the most exciting stuff happening, to my opinion.
It's really what you talk about is almost a revolution. I think it also becomes much, much harder for typical design academies, design schools to keep up with this change, because, I mean, how do you attract students that are wanting to go in this direction that all three of you are defining, but also how do you teach them? I mean, how do you get the right pool of teachers and tutors and mentors? Because you can't get them from the typical bubble, because now they're going in new directions. You need to really look to other disciplines for experts and for guidance, I think, which is it's a big change.
No, exactly. Yeah. If there are, that's the nice thing. There are designers that did theater or music or dance, and they kind of combine things with design. And it's also a way of framing. If you frame it as design, then suddenly it is a designer. But if you would frame it as an artist or as a musician, it's also possible. So it is not so important how you call it.
Yeah, that's the word sticky. It can stretch.
It can stretch, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it's difficult for teachers at schools. What do you teach them if they want a theater lesson?
It's part of education. It's inevitable. Education itself has to evolve as well. So I really hope they don't consider it as a challenge, but much more of an opportunity. And I hope they're staying curious about what artists need or design is what they need and how to facilitate them. I think that's the whole role about education.
And I think it has been changing already. I went to the MID, the Masters Industrial Design, last week. I went to the Rietveld already for the design lab. And you see that the teachers also are changing, are changing their thoughts about what design is. They're working with different perspectives. The teachers come from different fields. It's not only about like, the teacher is a big designer, or it's more theoretical, and it's also an artist teaching design, or a material specialist teaching design, a social designer thinking about design, and they come together and teach the kids or the students. Yeah.
And so during the GLUE Amsterdam, where will viewers be able to see the sticky participants?
Well, almost everywhere spread over Amsterdam. I think let's say the 30 designers, there will be partly in the Waag, in Studio Tonic. Studio Zeta is in his own studio in Amsterdam North. Yeah, in Pakhuis de Zwijger there will be the Pact members exhibiting, Hotel Arena. So there are many locations in the city where we exhibit the sticky members. So it's a kind of exhibition that's spread all over the place. And we have a route on our website, and which is the Stretching the Definition route. And if you follow that, you will see all of them.
Okay, so visitors will be able to get not only what's happening now in design, but also where it's heading for the future.
Yes, we hope so. We are curious,
so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for the chat today, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you.
Thank you.